Now that we have our Premiere Pro workspace set up, we are ready to import some pictures and then begin editing our first video. Before we do that, let's take a look at the environment here of Premiere Pro. We've got 4 primary areas to work with. We'll start down in the lower left, and down here we have what we call the project window. And the project window is where we import or store all the information that we'll be using, the resources in order to build a video, and this would include images, video clips, music, and titles. And then over to the right we actually have what we call our sequence or our timeline, and then notice that it starts at time 0, and then we build our movie utilizing these different audio and video tracks. One thing that's nice about Premiere Pro is that we have many audio and video tracks to use. Right now it's by default showing 3 video tracks, but we can go up to, I believe in this version of Premiere Pro, about 99 different video tracks. So more than we will ever need. And we'll learn more about that as we move through our building of our first video. And then of course corresponding audio tracks that we can utilize. Up in the top left, this is our preview window. And so when we have clips to look at, we can view them and do some preliminary editing up in this window here. And here in the program window, we actually view the movie that we are creating. So we import our resources here to the project. We can come up here and preview them and do some preliminary edits. And then we can drag them down into the timeline. And then as we're building our movie here on the timeline, or referred to as a sequence, then we can view that sequence here in the program window. So those are the main elements of the Premiere Pro working environment. Let's go ahead and bring those pictures in. A few ways we can do that, but we'll go ahead and start with just a real basic way of importing images. Come up to the main menu and click File. Then click Import. And then navigate over to that ThoughtSpace folder that we created in the previous video. Images. And there's my Photoshop folder, and there's all the images. Now you can grab these images one at a time. You can hold down the Control key and select multiple images, or you can press Control A and select all of the images. You can click on the first image, scroll to the last image, and press the Shift key and select all the images. So multiple ways of selecting. I'll go ahead and just select all of them by pressing Control A. And once you have that selection, click Open. And the files will be imported. Now there's a couple ways that we can bring these images into the preview window. One is to double click on the image. The other way is to grab an image and drag it to the window. And then the other way that you can select images is you can go back to that task list that we looked at in a previous video. And if you want to look at the icons, you can click on the icon and it will show you a picture of those images. And then you can choose those images that way also. Before we start actually editing any of these images, let's go ahead and get a little bit more organized. I'm going to go back to the list view, and what we want to do is create a folder so that we can get a little bit more organized, because right now what we have is images along with our Photoshop images sequence, and so real quickly things can become disorganized. So Premiere Pro allows you to create folders, or what they call bins, B-I-N-S. Let's go ahead and create 2 bins to get a little bit more organized. If you click down here in the lower right, you'll see an icon. When you point to it, it's called New Bin. Click it, and what we can do is call that bin Images. And then what you can do is grab these images and drag them into that folder or that bin. And to grab all of these, you can click on the first one, scroll down to the bottom, you hold down the Shift key, grab the last one, scroll back up and grab all those at the same time, and then you'll see that all of these images are now in this bin called Images. And let's make one more bin and call it Sequences. Let's go ahead and make another bin. Make sure you're selected out of that Images folder there. Click out into this empty space, click New Bin, and let's name that Sequences. S-E-Q-U-E-N-C-E-S, Sequences. And then grab that first sequence that we created and drag that into that folder. And you can control the contents, and then you can control how you see the contents of that folder by clicking on the triangle. So complete those steps and then have me come by and look at your working environment, and then in the next video we will go ahead and start editing and adding some of the images to the sequence timeline.